Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel English with Shanta Dwivedi, and in today's video we will be covering a very powerful and inspiring chapter of class 10th, and that is Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. And this chapter is not just a story but a real life incident of Nelson Mandela, who was the very first Black president of South Africa. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. So starting with the background, Nelson Mandela was the very first Black president of South Africa, and he dedicated his complete life just to end a system of apartheid. And what is this system of apartheid? Apartheid is a system where there was the discrimination between the whites and blacks, जहाँ पे discrimination किया जाता था on the basis of color, जहाँ पे there was superiority among the white people, and people used to look down or make inferior those who were of black color. So Nelson Mandela and a lot more of freedom fighters, they sacrificed their life just to end this system of apartheid. The chapter begins on May 10, 1994, the day when Nelson Mandela won as the first black president of South Africa, and this system of apartheid has ended and there was a democratic government. So if we talk about the summary of the chapter begins on the inauguration day, and that day is dated as 10th May 1994. It is a historic day because South Africa's democratic government was being formed, and after years of repression, oppression on the black, this was the first time when a black president was being made by the legit democratic system of voting. So leaders around the world were being invited and they all were attending this inauguration ceremony. Now we will talk about Mandela's speech, and when it was time to take oath, Mandela came on the stage. Nelson Mandela came on the stage and he talked about freedom, he talked about equality, and he talked and thanked to all the thousands of people who have sacrificed their life just to end this system of discrimination. He talks about the sacrifices, he talks about the oppressions, and he thanks all those great souls who has sacrificed their life to end this system of oppression. Also in his speech, Mandela talks about the dual responsibility that every citizen must do, and he tells that every citizen or every man has a dual obligation or twin obligation. And this is also a very important question from board's perspective. This is very important question, that what are the twin obligation that Mandela mentions in his speech. And he mentions that जो भी इंसान है, जो भी citizen है nation का, उसके दो obligations होते हैं, and first obligation is the responsibility towards his family, and the second obligation is his responsibility towards the community and the nation. But under this apartheid system, where there was discrimination on the basis of color, black people couldn't able to fulfill either. Neither they were able to fulfill their obligation towards their family, nor they were allowed to fulfill their responsibility or obligation towards their country or the community. Mandela also talks about courage, and he mentions that courage is not about absence of fear, but it is about the triumph over the fear. In short, he mentions that I means Mandela, I learned that courage is not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. So he talks about that being courageous, it's not just about being fearless, it is about having the fear, able to overcome those fear. That is the actual courage or the meaning of true courage. Other than this, Mandela also talks about the old system of hatred and racism that has come to an end, and how he and his community is far more than grateful for all those people who have sacrificed their life for this point, for this moment to come. He vows, he pledges for the nation, he pledges for a new nation that has built on the basis of freedom, equality and justice. In his speech, he also mentioned about the people who are oppressed and the oppressor. तो ये क्वेश्चन भी आता है कभी कभी एग्जाम में कि what do you mean or what do you understand by the term oppressor or the one who is being oppressed. इसके अलावा अगर हम मैसेज और थीम की बात करें तो ये जो चैप्टर है हमें बहुत क्लियरली, बहुत एक इंस्पायरिंग एक फ्रीडम फाइटर की लाइफ के बारे में बताता है, हाउ ही हैज स्पेंट हिज होल लाइफ just to make a impact for the society. And this chapter tells us that if you want freedom for something, you have to sacrifice things. Freedom requires sacrifices. Other than this chapter also gives us a message of courage, which means not to be fearless but to overcome the fears one have. And this chapter also highlights the problem of oppression, that it is just not the oppressed who is being destroyed in the process of oppression, but both the oppressed and the oppressor, both are being equally destroyed and both are being equally hurt in this process of oppression. And at last he tells us that unity and equality can rebuild any nation, and they have the power, and if everyone is united they can change anything they want. तो अगर हम important questions की बात करें तो इस chapter के important questions जो आते हैं they are कि inauguration day वाले दिन क्या पूरा event बताया गया है, ठीक है, what are the things Mandela talks about in his speech, what are the twin obligations, very important question from board's perspective. Other than this, what do you mean by apartheid system and how it is being created and how it ended. इस चैप्टर में से बस यही इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस हैं, ठीक है. जब भी आप आंसर्स को अटेम्प्ट करोगे इस चैप्टर में से तो डू मेंशन अबाउट नेल्सन मंडेला, अबाउट हिम बीइंग द फर्स्ट ब्लैक प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ साउथ अफ्रीका, अबाउट हिम able to end the apartheid system with all his efforts, and how he thanked all the leaders who were being welcomed for the inauguration ceremony. So that's the complete explanation of the chapter Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom, and I hope this has helped you in your preparation of your board exams. And if you understood the whole chapter's point of view, the important question, then like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel and wait for more videos, because I will be taking up each and every chapter of your class and will be explaining like this only. We'll talk about summary, we'll talk about analysis, we'll explain the whole chapter, and we will talk about important questions. Thank you, and that is all for today's video.